For this level, we're going to determine what type of economist are you. So we're going to look at some different schools of thought on how you can fix the economy. So we're going to look this week at 3 different schools of thought when it comes to economics. The first is the classical school of thought, and so this goes back to Adam Smith. So this is The Wealth of Nations, the book that he wrote in 1776. And you'll recall Adam Smith is the father of economics. So if we go back to 1776, that classical school of thought looks at, well, do we need government intervention in a competitive economy? And in his books, this is one book, it's just so big it takes up 2, he talks about in order to have wealthy nations, what you need is a competitive economy. And in a competitive economy, supply and demand determine who gets what and who does what. In which case, the government doesn't need to be involved in business or in who buys what. And so the government is laissez-faire. In which case, the government doesn't need to be involved even when we have a recession. And so the classical view looks at how the economy can fix itself. And so if we look at that classical view is really, let's see if I can get my camera to show it to you. When we talk about that classical view, the economy is really like a punching bag. And so you punch it and it bounces right back on its own. Well, the other schools of thought that we're going to look at, see if I can get my camera here to track me. Come on. This way. The other schools of thought we're going to look at is the Keynesian school of thought. And the Keynesian school of thought comes out of the Great Depression. And so we have John Maynard Keynes, who wrote The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money. And John Maynard Keynes was an interesting guy because he liked to write letters to the U.S. President and tell him about everything he was doing wrong. And so John Maynard Keynes had a lot of opinions in terms of how the government could help fix the economy. And so this level we're going to look at how can the government help prime the pump, help fix the economy. And the reason the government needs to get involved and help fix the economy, because according to John Maynard Keynes, in the long run, we are all dead. We can't wait for the economy to fix itself. Then we're going to look at a third school of thought, and this is the supply-side or school of thought. It came out in the early 80s in the U.S. under President Reagan. And so here what we're looking at is how changes in supply come from reducing the cost for businesses to operate, whether that's reducing taxes, reducing regulations, bureaucracy. If we can get businesses to make more goods and services, then they'll create more jobs, and the increase in supply will push down prices. So we're going to look at that supply-side school of thought, and it really comes from economists like Arthur Laffer, who says there's an ideal level of taxes at which you can maximize both the benefit to the government as well as have businesses pay less taxes so that they will do more. So we're going to look at those 3 different types of philosophies in terms of how to fix the economy, and hopefully by the end of this level you will have decided whether you are a classical economist, a Keynesian economist, or a supply-sider. And so we're going to be asking you this level to tell us what type of economist you are and why, as we start to look at how would you fix the Alberta economy going forward. Which of these philosophies do you think is the best one for Alberta?